Hello, and welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and I'm a congenital amputee of the right hand. In this show, I will interview other amputees and allow them to tell you their incredible life stories. I'll also feature family members of amputees and others who support the amputee community, all in an effort to discuss the challenges and triumphs of those living with limb loss. So stick around and listen to inspirational stories and find out why we say, we're not stumped. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Boland, and today I got Tracy Gariepy LaMarche on. Very excited about this episode. Tracy started getting into physical fitness when she was in her 30s, but as she says, when she was in, she was all in. She got her group fitness and personal trainer certifications, opened up her own fitness studio, and began competing on the national stage as a female bodybuilder. Things changed quickly in 2021. With a knee injury, they got progressively worse. I'm going to stop there because we're going to talk about that knee injury, what it eventually led to, and where she is now with Tracy on today's episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. So Tracy, thank you so much for taking your time to be on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm looking forward to it. We always start the podcast with a segment we call In Your Own Words. So Tracy, I'd love to hear your story.
Awesome. I'm excited to share it. So thanks for giving me the opportunity. I will say that my story started from an athletic perspective a little bit different from everyone else's or from the general athletic population. I did not play sports in high school. I don't think I was very active or athletic at all. I think of myself still as the last kid picked for gym class, really awkward when it came to sports and athletics and physical activity. Things changed for me as an adult. I got into my 30s and started working just a job that had me really active. And I lost a lot of weight and started to feel so good about myself, and then just had a little bit more confidence to kind of go out and do more athletic and active things. And I had some people that I looked up to that were taking aerobics classes and having so much fun and looking so strong and healthy that was the path that I took on for myself. So like you mentioned, I became an aerobics instructor. I got my personal trainer's license. I decided to open my own aerobics studio and then started running and weightlifting. Like when you said I was in, like, yeah, completely all in. This became so much of my life and such a change from who I was when I grew up, you know, the type of lifestyle that I lived growing up. So it became so much of my identity and so much of what I did in my personal and my professional life. And about three and a half years ago, I was coaching a Couch to 5 running group through my local YMCA. I still work there part-time. I was coaching this group and I was having them do speed work and decided to jump in at the last second and run sprints with them. And I wasn't warmed up. That's, you know, my own bad there. But they took off and I decided to take off and run with them, not warmed up. And I felt something go in my knee and tried to shake it off, tried to keep running. I'm like, this is not catastrophic, but it doesn't feel great. And after a few weeks, I said, I should probably get this MRI'd. So I had it. I had him done. I said, yeah, it's just a little meniscus. It's really nothing major, completely operable. We can do arthroscopic surgery and put 2 stitches in there and you'll be good to go. So that was the plan for me. Went into surgery, came out of surgery. They said it went just fine. Started on my little mini recovery because it's barely any recovery from that. And as soon as I got back into running, my knee started to hurt again, and it actually started hurting worse than it did before my injury or before with the first meniscus tear. So we took images again, and although those 2 stitches held great, they did a great job with that surgery. Those 2 stitches were still there holding that done. The rest of my meniscus had completely shredded. My ACL was torn, my PCL, my LCL. Wow. We don't really know why. And I blame nobody for that. It was just a fluke thing. My surgical team, my medical team was fabulous in trying to uncover answers. And they said, you know, we think that it could just be for some reason now you're running differently and moving differently than you used to. And the way that things are aligning into your knee is different than it used to be, and it's causing injury. It's hitting the wrong way. So we decided to do a pretty aggressive surgery to change the trajectory of my lower leg bones, my tibia specifically, into my knee. We actually broke that bone intentionally and changed the alignment to come into my knee, so that I had plates and screws and hardware in there holding that bone into its new position. And then another just misfortune. The hardware broke, the screws broke off inside the bone in my leg, the plate broke and shifted. We had to reoperate again, new hardware, another break in the bone, but there was screws in the bone that we couldn't get out. And even with that, these repetitive surgeries to try to each one fixing the surgery from the one before, um, at one point my tibia got to the point where it wasn't healing anymore. Every time we took x-rays, they're like, still broken, still broken. They called it a non-union of the bone. And then infection set in, and when a bacterial infection gets in, it loves to stick to metal. It's hard to kill bacteria off of metal. You can kill it in your body. You can take antibiotics and flush it out of your body. But when you have metal in your body, those antibiotics can't get into the metal. And the metal was stuck inside the bone, inside my leg. So, and all of this is happening, and my knee is still getting worse and worse and worse through all this. So we're looking at a period of 2 years of surgeries and unresolved issues. I finally made the decision, and I'd been joking with my surgeon all along. Every surgery that I went to, it ended up being 9 surgeries total. Oh. Every surgery that I went into, I would say to him, I'm like, doctor, if I wake up and my leg is not attached to me anymore, I'm okay with that. Like, I really was, because I was so tired of this. And it was a joke at first. And then as each surgery went on, I started to be more serious about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm actually asking you, is this an option to amputate my leg? Because I'm tired of this. I'm an athlete, and now I've been 2 years either in the hospital or laying on my couch recovering from a surgery. I've been completely inactive for 2 years. And every time I come out, I've got hope that this is the last one. It's going to be better. And I end up worse off than I was before. And again, I blame nobody. It's always just been, there's, with every surgery that there's risks. And I was just one of those people that the 1.001% chance of complications, they happened to me. So it was my decision. I talked to a number of surgeons. I actually talked to some mental health professionals too. We kind of put a plan in place, and May 25th of last year, we amputated my leg. The amputation was above the knee, since my knee had so much damage. So through the femur, and here I am now. I'm an amputee. I felt amazing as soon as I woke up from my surgery, which is kind of, nobody expected that either, especially with all the complications I'd had from previous surgeries. But I woke up and the infection was gone, and I didn't realize how sick I had felt until I felt unsick anymore. So I felt great. I was like, oh my God, there's nothing holding me back now. I don't have this non-functioning dead leg that I'm dragging around, and immediately got back into the gym just with one leg. I was hopping in on crutches and everything. Got back into the gym, got back to bodybuilding, back to weightlifting. As soon as I got my prosthetic leg, I started walking as much as I can and doing races at a walk. So not competing, but just moving as much as I can. And yeah, like now I'm an athlete again. So I'm kind of back to who I am. Amputating was a way to get my sense of self back. So now I'm back to being me.
What an amazing story, especially making that decision, regardless. It's got to be a tough decision, and I'm glad you had others that help you with that decision. What was the prosthetic journey like? Which you still may be on. I don't know that, but what is that like? You get your starter prosthetic, and because you're coming in that part brand new. How was that journey for you?
Yeah, so that journey, I didn't realize in the beginning, and I'm realizing now, that journey does not have a destination, an end point. You live on that journey as an amputee for the rest of your life, if you are somebody who chooses to use a prosthetic. Sure. Not everyone does. I even went through a period of time where I wondered, maybe I'm going to be somebody that doesn't use a prosthetic leg, because I was doing so well on crutches. I got back to bodybuilding before I even had a prosthetic leg. I got up on stage twice, just hopping on one leg, standing in a high heel, a 5-inch heel. And wow,
yeah. I can't do that with 2 legs.
I know. So I even questioned, do I even want to wear a prosthetic leg? But yeah, so the journey for me started because I healed so well from my amputation. About 6 weeks after we amputated, they started fitting me for a prosthetic leg, and they cast you for it. It's like a plaster cast, and they make a mold, and then they make a prototype off of that mold. And the prototype is an acrylic material, a clear acrylic material that can be heated up. So if you try it on and they realize it needs to be a little wider here, or we need to lift or open it up a little bit more, they can just go back to the shop and heat it and bring it back out. So it's a process to get it fitted to you. I am extremely fortunate that my prosthetist, I actually think it's prosthetist, the person who makes my prosthetic leg, that he has his shop, his lab is right there in the office. So he can literally go work with me and then take the leg and walk right back to his shop and work on it and then come back out to the exam room that I'm in and fit it back to me again. So that sometimes you can get it fitted in one appointment. Sometimes it takes a few appointments, but once they have that completely determined what the size and shape of it is going to be, then they make your actual leg, and it's made out of a carbon fiber. And there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. Like there's different types of carbon fiber sockets. The socket is the piece that your residual limb goes into. And then there's the pylon, which is a straight piece just to add height, because I still want to be 5'2". So, and I'm missing part of my leg. So, I have to have a straight bar that gives me the same height. I don't have a knee. So there's lots of different manufacturers that make different knees and different types of knees, whether it's hydraulic, whether it's controlled by a computer, how much resistance it has, what type of impact it can withstand, and then the foot. So like there's so many different components that go into a prosthetic leg, just one leg. And I actually now have 3 legs because I've got one for that's very adjustable. That's my first leg, and I'll still keep that probably forever. That can accommodate if my leg swells or shrinks over time with inflammation, or just if I gain weight or lose weight, which as a bodybuilder, that happens quite a bit. So I've got that socket that I'll have forever. I have a knee that's my original knee that was kind of you learn how to walk on it. It's also a great knee for weightlifting, which is why they started me on that first. Then I have a knee that is my everyday knee for when I have to be out and about all day long, because it's controlled by a computer. So it takes some of the work off of me. It's not controlled by like my muscle synapses. I can't control it with any part of my biomechanics, but the knee itself can recognize shifts in my body weight. So if it thinks I'm falling, it'll stiffen up and it won't buckle underneath me. It understands if I'm walking downstairs, and it allows for that biomechanics for me to walk down a flight of stairs. So I've got that. And then the third piece that I'm just getting now is a running blade. And that's that big C-shape thing that you'll see at the bottom of lower limb amputees. 100% for running. You shouldn't walk on that. It's not meant for walking. It would be really uncomfortable to walk on. And that is the learning curve that I'm in right now. I own the blade. It's not attached to my leg yet, because we still have some adjustments that we need to make. But that's the next step in my journey is learning how to use that and getting back to running, because that's the one component of athleticism that I haven't been able to get back to yet. I go out to do races. I do 5Ks, 10Ks, but I'm walking. I'm usually the last one to finish. So excited to actually run again and be the runner that I used to be, or a new version of the runner that I used to be.
Well, that's excellent. I hear from a lot of other people that have been on the podcast that the prosthetic journey also requires a lot of communication. And there's a lot of times where the amputee may feel like, I don't know if I should say something or not, but you have to be your own advocate. Is that something that you went through as well?
Yeah, and I still am. I have a challenge as being a female amputee, and my my prosthetist is male. There are, being an above knee amputee, my prosthetic goes right up into, female parts that I have to explain to him what I'm feeling, and if it's hitting me the wrong way, or if I feel that it's not laying against something the right way. And that's something that, as a patient, not just an amputee, I think if you're a patient in any medical setting, you have to advocate for yourself and understand that if that makes somebody else uncomfortable, that's their problem. You know, you have to say what you need to say in order to get the care that you need. And that was a little bit of a learning curve for me too, to be able to just describe what I'm feeling and to say what I need based on what I'm feeling.
Yeah, and kind of like you're saying, in any walks of life, and you went through that whole process with your knee. That had to have been another time where you really had to start communicating everything you were feeling.
Yeah. I mean, I had to ask them to amputate my leg. That was a big ask, you know.
That is a big ask. What was the doctor's thought on that? I mean, did you get any resistance from anyone in your life? Okay.
Yes, I did. So my first surgeon, the one that had done a lot of the surgeries leading up to this point, I don't want to say he was against it, but he was just so cautious. And he was the first to say, Tracy, I don't do amputations. So you're kind of barking up the wrong tree right now. You know, I'd have to refer you to somebody else. He said, but as your surgeon and as someone who's known you for the past 2 years, and as an orthopedist, because he was an orthopedic surgeon, he's like, I need you to understand what you're really asking for when you're asking to lose your leg. And he said, for you, because it's a knee injury, we'd have to amputate above the knee. Huge difference between being an above knee or a below knee amputee. If you have your own native biological knee, life can still be very, very similar to what it used to be. Once you lose your knee, that changes how you approach everything. And I heard him. That's different from actually letting it sink in and kind of actually appreciating what he was saying. I was so just gung ho. I'm like, no, I want this. I want this. I want this. He referred me over to a different surgeon who's actually more more so than not, he does amputations due to cancer. So he works with a lot of cancer patients. But my situation was kind of similar, where I had a lot of just damage and infection to a leg. Like it wasn't due to a traumatic like motorcycle accident or something. You know, this was something that was happening. So this cancer surgeon was ideal for me. He also cautioned me, but he was a little more willing. He's like, this is a viable option, but let me tell you, you have other viable options too. I want to lay it all on the table, and it's ultimately your decision. One of the choices was to wait it out and see if things get better. I'm like, I've been waiting for 2.5 years now. I'm done with this. The third option was to try to do a total knee replacement. And he said, although that's a good option, it's just as good as anything else. He said the challenges that could come with that are, as active as you are, we'd probably have to do a revision of the knee replacement a few times, and then we'd get to the point that we can't revise it anymore and amputation would be inevitable. Wow. And I said, well, I'm 47. I don't want to go through multiple surgeries again and then have you tell me when I'm 60, 65, now you have to learn how to be an amputee. Like, I want to learn how to do that now. So I said, yep, amputate. And then the final step was they did send me to a mental health professional, not because they thought I was crazy. And they said that over and over and over again, like, you're not crazy for asking this. However, losing a limb is, I guess, research shows that it is second grief-wise only to losing a loved one. Yeah. So they wanted me to be mentally prepared for that process. So I had some sessions with her beforehand. I was set up to meet with her afterwards if I needed to. I felt that I didn't need to. I had other avenues that I went down to maintain my mental health, and we can get into that. But yeah, that was the whole process. It was my initial surgeon, then a different surgeon, and a mental health professional that all kind of helped me medically on this journey.
You know, it's interesting when you bring that up. I had Jennifer J.J. Johnson. She went through something similar where she asked the same question, and her surgeons almost felt like it was a failure on their part. And, you know, that's where she had to be her own advocate and say, no, I'm sorry. This is my body. We're not going anywhere here. I want to get on with the rest of my life. And it sounds like exactly what you went through. So with, you mentioned a few times the difference between the above knee and the below knee. So through your experience, how is that going for you, being the above knee? And I know you have nothing to compare it to, but
right. I do have nothing to compare it to. And you know, if I'm being realistic, I am a person who feels that comparison is the thief of joy. So like, what's the point, you know, in trying to say my journey is more difficult than your journey, or that your journey is more difficult than mine. But I will say that just biologically, the less joints you have, the more of an ask that you're putting on what's left of your body. So I don't have a knee, I don't have an ankle. So all of the movement that I'm asking my body to do as far as lower body has to come from my hip. That's the only joint that's left on my right side that can power me forward. So energy expenditure for an above knee amputee is a whole lot more than a below knee amputee, just because you're putting a lot more emphasis on a singular joint and asking that joint to do all of the heavy lifting that maybe two or three other joints were doing as well. And then balance. I did not know how hard it was to balance on a knee when, like, if you think about it, you don't know what that knee is doing. You don't have that proprioception, and you also don't know what the ankle is doing, or the lack of ankle. You don't know what your foot is feeling. So when you take one step, you put your foot down, initially you have no idea what's going to happen. Is that leg going to hold me up? I don't know. Is that knee going to buckle underneath me? It's a hinge, Yeah. I don't know. So that was a huge, huge learning curve for me to figure out how to do. I still fall, and I tell people, especially if I go into a gym or a setting where I'm going to be really active, I tell people right ahead of time, I'm like, I'm going to fall. It happens. That's kind of part of my life, and it's okay. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to fall, and it's okay. And I'll get back up. I'll let you know if I need help.
How was it when you first started going back to the gym? How were you received? The people, I don't know if you already knew a lot of people where you were going, but how was that for you?
Yeah, so I work at a number of different gyms.
Okay.
But I didn't actually tell people what was it. They knew that I had been having surgeries. I didn't even tell them what the surgeries were for. I would just be like, going out for a little medical procedure. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. So throughout those 2 years leading up to it, I'd be out for a few days and I'd be back. I teach cycling, and I would tell my cycling class, we're all going to stand up in the saddle. I personally can't stand up, and it was because my knee was so painful. It couldn't hold me up. So they all knew I had stuff going on. They didn't know what it was. And then when I was ready to actually have the surgery and be out, I actually pre-recorded something to post on social media. So that people could see me still whole and complete and feeling, not in a hospital setting. And I said what was going to happen. And I said, I'm going to look really different the next time you see me, and it's going to be okay. So by the time I came back to the gyms, I think most people were relatively prepared, unless they didn't follow me on social media. And I have to say the response was just so heartwarming. I mean, so heartwarming. Just the outpouring of it, a lot of it was just, you look great. It wasn't even, holy, what happened? They would just be like, look at you, like, here you are coming in on crutches. You look great. And you know what? I did. I felt great. And I think that was a huge factor in it, as I came in feeling happy and healthy and a smile on my face and so happy to be in the gym and be able to do stuff. So yeah, the reception was great. The one thing that, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. There's times that people come up to you when they see you as a disabled person, and I have thoughts about that. So
Oh, I can't wait to hear. I was going to say, first of all, shame on anyone for not following you on social media. What are your social media handles? I'd love to hear where people can find out more about you on social media.
Yeah, for sure. So I love to be friends with people. So I would love for people to follow me, and I'll follow you back, and we'll be besties. Instagram is probably the best one, and it's barefit. So BAREFIT, barefit_girl. So that's my Instagram handle. That's probably the best way to find me.
Excellent. And I'll have all the links in the descriptions of both YouTube and all the podcast platforms. So I'll make sure that that's in there, along with some other things you're doing. But I want to talk about, you said you want to talk a little bit, or we're going to talk a little bit more about the mental health aspect. And I know that you had a great peer visitor from the Amputee Coalition. They have a very great program, certified peer visitors. And her name is Beth. I don't know her last name. I don't know whether she would appreciate me saying her last name. But I think early on, as far as what I read about you, she really helped you get to that maybe next phase of your journey. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So when I was still half joking with my surgeon about, if I wake up and I don't have the leg anymore, that's when I just started Googling elective amputation, and I found the Amputee Coalition. They sent me a whole packet of resources about things to know before your surgery, things to know after your surgery. What is it like to go through, like we talked about the process of getting fitted for a
Yeah.
prosthetic leg? So much information in just one resource. And then at the same time, they also said, would you like to talk to somebody that's
Wow.
been on a similar journey to you? And so this was through email. And I said, yes, here's my story. I'm an athlete. This is what's going on with my leg, and I'm asking my surgeon to amputate my leg for me, and I don't know legally if I'm allowed to ask for that. I just had no idea. So they said, all right, they linked me up with Beth, who she's a below the knee amputee. And at the time that I had started that conversation, I didn't even know the difference between above knee and below knee. I knew nothing. So they linked me up with Beth, and just to respect her privacy, I won't share her last name either, but she had been in a motorcycle accident. And although the start of her journey was different from mine, the trajectory was very similar, where surgery after surgery to just try to fix something where they thought every time they'd be able to fix the problem for her, but woke up from surgery feeling worse off than she did before she went in. So she had multiple surgeries to fix the damage to her leg. And ultimately she said, please, can we just end this once and for all, and amputate my leg? And she said, it's interesting that you said physicians sometimes see this as a failure. Like, she said the exact same thing to me. She said that surgeons sometimes look at amputation as, I failed my job as a surgeon and I wasn't able to make this person whole again. And sometimes in advocacy, it's our job to say, no, this is what I need in order to be a whole person again, and in order to be true to myself. So she gave me that, some of that language to use with my surgeon. And then she also just told me things that the surgeon wouldn't have told me, because he had never been an amputee and he
Great
didn't know.
point.
So what do phantom pains feel like? What can you do if you feel phantom pains in your residual limb? She explained to me how insurance will decide what componentry you can get for your prosthetic leg, and that's a journey in itself. I think we all know that in the United States, our healthcare system is not 100% ideal. So there's some hoops that you have to jump through, and there's some ways that you need to learn how to advocate for yourself there. So she gave me a lot of tips and tricks for that. But then, the biggest thing was just she became a friend, and just somebody that kind of, she gets it. Um, that's really what I hope to be. I'm still really early in my journey, but if I can be that person for at least someone else, maybe multiple other people, if I can just be that friend for them, so that they feel like there's someone else in the world that gets it. That's my hope. Just so I can pay it forward. I'm just so grateful for everything that she did for me.
That's great. I think you are paying it forward to a certain extent with what you're doing. You continue to go back to the gym and compete, and you've actually been on stage. As you said, we had a little pre-conversation with a 5-inch heel and one leg and crutches. So,
Uh-huh.
and there's plenty of pictures of that on your social media. What was that like, though, the first time back on stage?
Amazing, amazing. And let me tell you, just the bodybuilding community, people, I think it's easy for people to think that we're very self-centered. It's an individual sport. It is very aesthetic focused. Our job is to be as muscular and beautiful at the same time as we can possibly be. So there's a stigma around it, but the whole community was just so open and
That's great.
embracing. I reached out to them ahead of time because I'd never seen an amputee on stage before, so I had to ask, "Am I even allowed to walk out on stage? Are there any rules that say you have to have two legs?" I didn't know, and they were like, "No, we would love to have you." I got there the day before to do my check in and pick up my number and everything, and they realized when I came in, I wheeled in. I brought my wheelchair with me, and I wheeled in to do the check in process, and they realized that half of the check-in process was upstairs and there wasn't an elevator.
Wow.
They carried me. They just picked me up and carried me up the stairs like it
Wow.
was nothing. And of course they're all bodybuilders, so of course they could do that. But yeah, the process of just I felt like I was coming home. I already knew that about the community, the bodybuilding community, that they we're all just very empowering and embracing of each other. We cheer each other on, even though we're competing against each other. We're cheering each other on, and we want the best for each other. So that just, again, this whole process of amputating was to come back to who I am. And I got back on stage and I'm like, this is me. I'm back, baby. So yeah, I loved it.
I can tell you from personal experience, no matter what I do for the right side, because I'm missing a right hand, it just doesn't come in, it doesn't develop like my left side. How about in your situation? Are there different exercises you have to do, things you've uh, discovered along the way that you can help others with?
Yeah. First of all, mentally, you have to get over the fact that one side of your body is going to look very differently from the
Mm-hmm.
other. You just have to accept that and embrace it. So my right, we amputated on the right side. I have some of my femur left, and to look at me in the mirror, I can't use the little bit of muscle that's left in my leg. So there is a hamstring and there's a quadricep, the two muscles that the two primary muscles in your muscle groups in your upper leg. Those muscles are there, but they're not attached to anything because I don't have a knee. So,
Mm-hmm.
they attach at your hip and your knee, but I don't have a knee anymore. So they kind of shriveled up and shrunk. And coming from a bodybuilding background, my legs used to be huge. And now that I can't work those muscles, I've got all the skin that the muscle used to fill, and now the muscles have shrunk. And so my leg is really just this big around, but there's a lot of sagging skin, and I have to be okay with that.
Yep.
That's just that's part of the process. But so I, I know I can't work my hamstring or my quadricep muscles, but I do have to work all the muscles around my hip quite a bit. My glutes and what's called your adductors and abductors, the muscles that can take your leg out to the side or pull it in closer to your body. You have to work those quite a bit because that's what you're relying on for motion.
Mm-hmm.
Because the knee and everything in the prosthetic, it can't power you, it can't move you forward. So yes, lots of exercises that I'm doing just to strengthen my hip and my glutes so that I can still move forward as effectively as possible.
And did you have to build anything specific for you, or is there
No,
some? Okay.
no, you just have to get creative in
Yeah. Yeah.
learning how to use the equipment that's already there. Yeah. So like when I'm in the gym, I'll take cable machines
Mm-hmm.
and strap them around my leg so I
Yeah.
can use the cable for my leg. If I have my prosthetic leg on, then there's some machines that work the hips that I can still use and just kind of push down into the prosthetic leg so that I can activate those muscles. So no, I haven't had to build anything specific. I just had to learn different ways to use what's there.
And during this process, you've been recently married, so I'm going to maybe incorrectly or correctly assume that you were with your now husband during this process. Is that, or most of it? Is that a close statement?
I'll touch on that briefly. This process is a little bit of a love story. Because to go through major medical challenges with a partner, you learn a lot about the relationship, you learn a lot about them, and they learn a lot about you. I mean, this person is now going to see you at your absolute worst, and he did. He saw me at my absolute worst. And I think a challenge with a relationship going through this medical journey is, as a patient, you think about the support that you need. I'm losing a limb. I'm going into surgery. I'm in the hospital. I'm having trouble being able to work, because of all these medical challenges. You think about how it's affecting you, and it's easy to forget that your partner is going through this journey also and experiencing loss as well and experiencing stress and all of this. So yeah, we went through some really really challenging times. Like, I'm not going to lie, there
Sure.
were times that I did not know if we were going to make it. There were times that we decided we were not engaged anymore. And then after I came out of my amputation and started to feel like myself again, then I was, when you can take care of people better, you can and take care of relationships and things like that. So I was in a better position to attack the relationship. Attack isn't the right word. I was in a better position to work on the relationship. And I think he had had enough time to see all the different faces of Tracy, and really evaluate, you know, is this someone I want in my life forever? And we both took a little bit of time to ourselves, and we realized, yep, actually this is exactly what we want. We belong together, and we're better together. We're stronger together as a team. And yeah, so we got married in January at Disney World. It was beautiful. But yeah, it was a long journey, but I tie our love story to my medical journey very closely. I think the two are very much related.
Thank you for sharing that story. And first of all, congratulations on your
Thank
new
you.
marriage. It's, gosh,
Thanks.
very recent. But thank you for sharing that story because those are the types of stories sometimes we may forget about, the relationships and things like that. I was recently asked about me, since I was born without a right hand, did I have problems dating? And I know that there were some people that didn't want to date me because I had one hand. But my attitude was always, well, I don't want to date someone that doesn't want to date someone that doesn't have a right hand.
Right.
So
Right.
it's all about perspective. And I really appreciate you being very open about that part of your life because I kind of went through a little left field there. I didn't prepare you for that one. So thank you so much.
Sure.
But,
Sure. Yeah.
let's talk about Blair a little bit because that's your husband's name. You both opened Battle Fitness,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you I want to it features personal training, adaptive coaching, and competition prep. So I'd love to hear about that business you have going.
Yeah, yeah. So he and I both have for many years been coaching individuals in different varieties. So his background is he's an athletic trainer, which if you don't know what that is, that's if you're watching a football game and someone gets hurt on the field, the person that runs out to take care of that person.
Okay.
That's what an athletic trainer is. So it's actually it's a medical role. But through that, he is man, I've never met someone who is more knowledgeable about the human body and the functions of the human body. And especially because he worked with professional athletes, just what it takes for the human body to be able to perform optimally. So a lot of the coaching that he did was of athletes and also taking that knowledge and applying it to personal training. So people just with, moms and dads, someone who said that I'm just looking for a healthier lifestyle. He's been in that world for 20 plus years. And then you've got my background, and I started with group fitness and then personal training, running. Um, I got on stage as a bodybuilder. He's got a background in bodybuilding as well. So we both on the side have been coaching bodybuilding competitors and helping them get prepped for the stage. And then most recently, because I've gone through this journey, I've learned, just like you were asking about, like, do you have to get different equipment or whatever to work out now? And I'm like, no, but you have to learn how to use things creatively. There's not many people out there to teach you how to do that.
Yeah.
So that was something that I really wanted to take on because I've got a little bit of the personal experience with it, plus the professional experience of being a personal trainer. So now I am an adaptive inclusive trainer,
That's
and
great.
and that is a certification that you
That's
can
great.
get, so that you can work with people that may have physical limitations that need to learn creative ways to still perform optimally. So you take all of those things together, and his name is Blair. My name is Tracy. So Blair and Tracy LaMarche. So BATL. That's Battle Fitness. It is online coaching, and it's also in person. We live in the upstate of South Carolina. So for folks who live in South Carolina, they see us either in our home or we go to their gym. But a lot of it is online, and we deliver workout programs, nutrition programs. If there are vitamin and mineral supplements that they should be taking that can best support their goals and objectives, then we can give advice on that as well. Because I'm a nutrition counselor too. So yeah, it's a lot of componentry that goes into one business, one organization, but really the ultimate goal is just somebody who physically and nutritionally wants to feel like their best selves. That's what we help them do.
I didn't realize when I said Battle Fitness, and it's BATL. Is it .com?
It's a GoDaddy site. So let me make
Okay,
sure that, and I know we can throw the link in there,
I'll
but
definitely
it's,
do that.
yeah, battlefitness.godaddysite.com.
Excellent. I didn't realize that it meant your names though. That's
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. I didn't see that. Okay, that's one of the things that went right over my head there. But so as we continue, what I'd like to know is what is something about living life as an amputee that maybe you didn't understand before your own journey?
So I will say I didn't understand um how we're perceived by the general population. Um, and I'm going to get a little bit on my soapbox for a second.
Love it.
There are so many people that come up to me in the gym, that maybe they knew me before and now they see me in this new life and congratulating me and saying, how wonderful it is that you're continuing on this path of health and wellness and fitness and everything, despite all that you've gone through. Um, they'll ask for advice and things like that. I love those interactions. I will talk to anybody. If you come up and talk to me, even if I've got my headphones on in the gym, I'll pull my headphones off and I'll have a conversation with you. Um, but the other side of it is there are a lot of people that come up to me and they'll see me doing what I consider to be, advanced bodybuilding moves in the gym. And they'll say, wow, I look at you and I think if a disabled person can do this, why can't I do it? And I know that they mean well. Like I get it. It comes from a good place. I don't get offended by that, but I might have said that to somebody beforehand, before I was an
Hmm.
amputee. I might have said, wow, if you can do that, I can do that. And what I would mean is just, I don't even know what I would mean by it. It would just come out of my mouth, I think. The way it's perceived, though, is I'm like, I'm an athlete, I'm a professional. First of all, you're assuming that this is very hard for me. You're assuming that what I'm doing in the gym is extremely difficult for me. And please understand that this is actually my life and my profession. So it's not necessarily hard for me. And the second that you say, if a disabled person can do it, I can do it, what you're saying is, even though I'm struggling with it, it's probably really easy. So if others can do it, like, well, geez, and you're disrespecting, what it is that I'm actually doing. And what I would love for people to just kind of embrace the concept of is, it's not if you can do it, I can do it. It's, wow, maybe if I worked as hard at something as you're working at this, maybe I could achieve some great things too. Because that's true of anybody. If you work hard at something, you can achieve great things. And that's I think what they mean to say, but it comes out differently. And I don't think they understand how it's perceived. And I didn't know that before I was an amputee. I would look at somebody who has some sort of physical challenge or limitation, and I would say, "Wow, you're inspiring. How inspiring, how great. You make me want to do that. And if you can do that, then why can't I do it?" And that's not really the case.
A good way to put it. You're inspiring, Mike. You can tie a shoe. Yeah, so
Right?
can my 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's kind of an
Yeah.
interesting perspective. Thank you for sharing that. What is next for Tracy? What are you looking forward to in the future?
How much time do you have? So
Oh,
many things.
I want to hear it all. Let's go.
So many things. So I think I mentioned that I do want to be a peer counselor, a peer visitor
That'd be
for other
great.
people that are going through similar journeys to this. We're really looking forward, my husband and I, to expanding our business and being able to reach more people, whether that be competitors or other people with physical limitations. And it's not just amputees, spinal cord injuries, neurological impairments. There's so many different ways that it can manifest in the gym that there aren't a whole lot of resources to help the adaptive community as a
Yeah.
whole to be able to be their best selves and to perform at their best. So I'm looking forward to just being a contributor in that world. Um, what else? I'm a grandmother. I don't know if we mentioned that. So,
Yeah.
like
Congratulations.
my family is growing, and I'm so looking forward to my granddaughter growing up and everything. And then just on the personal space, I am really looking forward to getting back to running and hope to compete. For bodybuilding, the ultimate goal is always to get your pro card. We want to turn professional, and I consider myself to be working in a professional space because I am a coach. I work for hire in the sports and fitness industry, but to get that validation on stage where they hand you something that says you are a professional bodybuilder, that's kind of my next athletic goal that I'm chasing right now.
Something we had talked about a little earlier, and I wanted to make sure we mentioned it here, is the importance of working out. And as we talked about earlier, you expanded it, but as an amputee, but certainly as any kind of adaptive athlete, talk about the importance of that.
Okay, so here's how I look at it. Um, so I got active in my 30s, and it was originally because I had lost weight and I wanted to still look good and I wanted to build muscle and I wanted to like what I see when I look in the mirror and everything. Then when I got into running, it was because I wanted to win the races that I entered, and I got into bodybuilding, and it was like I want to win my pro card. You think that all this athletic stuff that you're doing is training for a specific event or a specific goal, and I realized coming out of this final surgery and everything, all of that I had done, I was just training for life. When you get strong and when you are physically active, you're doing so much for your heart health, for your mental health. You're limiting your risk for diabetes. There's just you're lowering risk for stroke, for cancer. There's so many things that you don't see in the mirror, But sometimes life throws a huge curveball at you, like it did to me. And then you realize I've been training for this my whole life. I thought I was training to win my pro card on stage. I was training to live through this and to stay strong through this and to come out a strong person on the other side. And that's how I feel about fitness. It's not necessarily about the aesthetics or being the strongest person or being the fastest person. It's about being the best version of yourself so that you can handle whatever life throws at you. And especially if you know that there is going to be additional physical challenges because you're asking some joints to do things because you're missing some joints and things like that, the better prepared you can be for that, then again, it's going to help support your recovery. It's going to help support your mental health. It's going to help support the rest of your health, because who wants to go through that and then also find that they're at risk for chronic disease, so that's my view on fitness. Like take away the beauty and the muscle and the strength and the speed. Those are great there, but that's gravy on top of the true benefits of it.
Well, if anyone listening needs to find someone that knows a lot about it, guess what? We have one on the pod. Yeah, Tracy can certainly help, and I'm looking forward to learning more. And like I said, I'll have all the links to all of your website, your Battle Fitness, your Instagram, everything, including the Amputee Coalition, all the great things that they did. And I just can't thank you enough for being on the podcast today. Your insights were just fantastic, and you're doing great things. I'm not going to say you're inspirational because, we expect this of you. But thank you. I really appreciate your time.
No, thank you. I mean, it's such a joy to be able to talk with individuals and to share with the community, and then hopefully to learn from all of you. I hope that people do find me on social media, not because I want to get myself out there, but because I just want to connect with more people. So please, chat with me. I want to hear more about you. I want to learn more about you. I'm still new on this journey. There's still so much that I have yet to learn and yet to experience. So thank you for opening that door for me. I really appreciate it.
That was the We're Not Stumped podcast, hosted by Mike Boland. If you want to be a guest on the program, reach out to Mike at his email address, mike@mikeboland.com. This podcast is produced by One Hand Man Productions. If you are looking to start your podcast, go to onehandmanproductions.com.